Engines that operate on the Otto cycle. Automotive engines. 4-stroke engine. The thermal cycle takes place in 4 complete cycles of the piston as follows. Towing journey. At the beginning of this journey, the piston is at the point closest to the cylinder head, which is called the top dead point. And the piston moves downward quickly, and at this time the intake valve is open, and as a result of the piston's downward speed, the pressure inside the cylinder is slightly less than atmospheric pressure, which leads to the entry of the air mixture and the gasoline inside, which was mixed outside the cylinder in the carburetor. And the mixture of air and gasoline continues to be withdrawn during the downward movement of the piston until it reaches the bottom dead point. And then the intake valve is closed. Pressure path. The piston moves from the bottom dead point towards the top, and then the volume of the mixture decreases and the pressure inside the cylinder increases. And thus the temperature of the mixture rises. At the end of this journey, the temperature reaches about 300 to 600 C, which is slightly less than the self-ignition point of the mixture. It is noted that the intake and expulsion valves are closed during this journey. And at the end of it, the piston reaches top dead center. Work journey. An electric spark is generated from the spark plug, and thus a very rapid combustion of the mixture occurs, and the ignition process produces gases under high pressure, which leads to the generation of a large force on the surface of the piston that moves it from the top dead point to the bottom dead point. And this is the useful path in the thermal cycle. It is used in managing the crankshaft, as well as managing the flywheel, whose rotation, by inertia, is used in managing the other strokes, exhaust, intake, pressure. It is noted that the intake and expulsion valves are closed during this journey. Exhaust travel, ejection. As a result of the fuel ignition process inside the cylinder, gases are generated that must be disposed of. And this is done through the expulsion valve, exhaust. Then the exhaust valve is closed and then the intake valve opens to start a new thermal cycle. Second, engines that operate on a diesel cycle. Compression ignition engines. The thermal cycle takes place in 4 complete cycles of the piston as follows. Towing journey. In it, the piston is moved from the top dead point downward, and at the same time the intake valve is open. And only air enters through it until the piston reaches the bottom dead point, and then the intake valve closes. Pressure path. In it, the piston moves from the lower point towards the top, and thus the volume of air decreases and its pressure rises. And thus its temperature, reaching at the end of the cycle to 600 m, and this degree is sufficient for the self-ignition of diesel fuel. The intake and expulsion valves are closed during this trip. Work journey. Once the fuel is injected into the cylinder under very high pressure, it becomes in the form of spray and mixes with the hot air. The ignition process is produced under constant pressure and results in gases under high pressure, which press on the surface of the piston and push it down until it reaches the bottom dead point. This is the useful course in the thermal cycle, which is used to manage the crankshaft and flywheel. Exhaust travel. As a result of the ignition processes, burning gases are generated that must be disposed of before starting a new thermal cycle. When the piston is at the bottom dead point at the beginning of this journey, the expulsion valve is opened and the piston moves upward, expelling these gases in front of it until it reaches the top dead point. Classification of heat engines. The heat engine is classified mainly according to the method of giving heat to the operating element and is divided into the following types. Internal combustion engine. Mixture of air and combustible fuel and its products. The combustion process and the liberation of thermal energy take place within a special combustion chamber located at the top of the cylinder of a piston engine operating on liquid or gaseous fuels. In a gas turbine, or in a place within the stream of gases in the body of the jet engine. And the nature of the combustion process is continuous. The working gases in the internal combustion engine perform an open thermal cycle and are expelled outside the engine during the process of converting thermal energy into mechanical energy. External combustion engine. The operating element is a gas with specific specifications or heated or roasted steam. And it works in a closed or open thermal cycle separate from the source of thermal energy. And combustion gases that are the heating medium of the thermal energy gained when heated. An example of this type is the steam engine and the steam turbine, where the operating element is the heated or superheated steam working at great pressure and high temperature, and gaining its thermal energy in the boiler and heat exchangers. After the steam performs a mechanical work in the form of driving forces in the cylinders of the piston engine, the steam exits to the surrounding atmosphere. In the steam turbine, the superheated steam affects the rotating blades of the turbines during its flow and expansion. Then enters the heat exchangers and condensers to condense and continue its closed thermal cycle in specific phases. Another example of an external combustion engine is the Stirling engine, which is a piston model designed by Robert Stirling in 1816 and succeeded in developing it into several forms, in which compressed hydrogen or helium gas is used and compressed air or steam is used as an operating element that performs mechanical work in the engine cylinder during its closed thermal cycle with the help of heated, cooled and recovered heat exchangers, in which heat is given and recovered at a fixed volume, and compression and expansion are done at a constant temperature. The operating element is subjected to compression and heating during work in the upper part of the cylinder and then expansion to perform the mechanical work, after which it is subjected to cooling in the lower part of the cylinder and in the coolant exchanger. Each cylinder in the engine often contains two opposing pistons connected to a reciprocating kinetic mechanism linked to a crankshaft for the mechanical energy intake. The exchangers gain their thermal energy from an external source of fuel combustion. In some small types, solar energy is used for heating. We hope you will remember this very simple explanation of how this very old engine worked, because it is important to facilitate the explanation and clarification of some other important and relevant matters. And this is in the advanced videos whose time has not come yet. We will talk about the suitability of all types of current motion engines and the modifications that we must pay attention to, especially turbocharged engines, which are the most suitable for new and alternative types of fuel. But also after knowing the chemical properties of these new materials from these upcoming energy sources. After reaching what we want to know together. There are other types of multi-cylinder Stirling engines, which are characterized by quiet operation, simplicity of design, low working pressure and less pollution to the environment. The direct power is controlled by calibrating the quantity of the operating element or gas in the engine. These engines have been used in a limited way as an auxiliary source for generating electric power and in some submarines, boats, and small helicopters. But they have not received common use due to the complexity of their groups, their large size and limited production. The jet engine, and will be the subject of the next video.
Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, to support us and to provide everything that is useful. Follow us.
Thanks for watching.